Welcome to the Code 3 podcast, presented by Security Responder. If you're wondering why it's called Code 3, in emergency services, Code 3 means respond immediately, lights and sirens. We chose that name because the conversations we're having here about mental health, security, leadership, and real life on the front line, they can't wait, they're urgent. Today, we're not talking about tactics or gear. We're talking about something we almost never talk about in this industry: mental health, Movember, and what happens when people who protect everyone are struggling themselves. I'm honored to be joined by Jenna Hill, MA, registered psychotherapist. Before becoming a therapist, Jenna worked in security to help put herself through university, so she understands this world from both sides. Why does this matter? Security guards, event, mobile, frontline patrols, we see a lot. Long night, isolation, disrespect, sometimes violence. And if we're being honest, we don't talk about it. And when we do talk about it, we gloss over and don't talk about how it affects us. Movember is meant to bring attention to men's mental health, but this conversation is bigger than just men. It's about anybody that wears a uniform or carries responsibility or feels that they have to stay strong, stay quiet, and carry it alone. Jenna, thank you for being here. Before we jump in, would you introduce yourself and share a little bit your journey from working in security to your eventual role as a therapist?
Yeah, thank you. Well, as you had said, I've got a master's degree in spirituality and counseling, and I am a registered psychotherapist, and I've been working in this field for a couple years, long enough to get a sense of like what kind of common trends are happening in our world right now, and I think that this is going to align very quite cleanly actually with what we're talking about in this podcast. But I do primarily work with eating disorders and autism and existential issues. But in working in the field of security, before I was like a full registered psychotherapist, like it definitely gave me a lot of opportunities to practice what I was learning in my master's degree in real time and in real life. Because so oftentimes, depending on like the kind of like contract you're working at, like if you're working at an event or if you're working at a condo, you get a wide variety of, different personalities and different things that people are going through. And really, although like, yes, this is my field, I think that knowledge about mental health is going to benefit you in any job that you work at when you are working with people, because it really is like just it's the study of people. And it helped so much with like de-escalating so many different conflicts, even, and I'm not just talking like big ones, it could even be small ones, like when I was de-escalating conflicts that could have become like a true conflict with people who lived in the condos who were just maybe having a bad day. Yeah.
Parking spots and so on and so forth.
Yes.
Great. So I guess the first question that we'd have to ask is why do we stay silent? Why is it so common for people in the frontline security to hide what's going on in them rather than talk about it? What stops us from speaking up?
I would say so many things, but if I go with the really easy answer, I would say that there's a certain mentality of the kinds of people who are drawn to these fields, right? A lot of the times, people who become frontline workers, and I use that term broadly too, um, these are the people who have a sort of savior complex, right? These are the people who feel like they have to take on the responsibility of the world on their shoulders. And if they kind of rely on anybody, then they are a burden. And they have to be the hero, they have to be the provider, they have to be the caretaker, whatever like title that they feel that they've taken on, depending on whether they're security or a nurse or anything like that, they nonetheless have this like great sense of fear and shame around adding to any problems for anybody else, and this worry that they're not going to be enough, that they're not going to be strong enough, that they're not going to be capable enough, that they're not going to be in control when it really matters, if they actually demonstrate or acknowledge any vulnerability, because those are going to feel like really big glaring weak points that create space for hurt, for pain.
Hmm. So what does the silence do to them? Like if they're not talking, and I know that this is prevalent in men who just feel that they
Mm-hmm.
can't talk, but What effect does that silence have on them over time, emotionally, physically, their relationship with their families, even the way that they eventually do their job, which is kind of like bringing it full circle?
Yeah, and like this is nice and clean because it does demonstrate in both genders, but you definitely recognize it more in the male, like the male gender, because there's this. I'm going to use a metaphor here, and I use this a lot with my clients. We are like bottles, right? Like we have to follow physics. Human beings don't. We cannot like without physics. We are part of the natural world, and in physics, right, when you're a bottle and you have a casing, like a body is a vessel, it's a bottle, and you get shaken up too much, you have too many like dysregulating experiences, like that pressure, that buildup has to go somewhere. It can't be held in. And although in a way, for many people, it actually is kind of held in, and that's what leads to many illnesses and autoimmune disorders and sicknesses for so many people. And it's what leads to like, differential like mental health diagnoses that they might not have met the criteria for otherwise. Um, but that pressure comes out usually in the form of like violent anger. And sometimes we don't see this at work, right? Like you can have so many people who go to work and they are so professional, so great, but they come home and they are horrible in their home and they are terrible to be around because they need a space to outlet that pressure. And their home feels like the safe space. And so they let it out because you have to. Like if you don't, it will force itself out, right? Like we've all seen like the when you put like a Mento, I think, in a Coke bottle and it
Yes.
explodes. Yeah, that's what happens. And so many times we think like, oh, if I just like brush it off or if I ignore it, it will eventually go away. But that unfortunately is not how the body works. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only changed. It will stay. And you're not actually changing it when you ignore it. You're not doing anything with it. So it's going to stay in the form that it's in. And it's just going to build. And it can show up in so many different ways. But by the time that sometimes we like pay attention to it, especially men, because you're kind of told so often that you're not like allowed to have feelings. And then there's so many like kind of narratives that men will have within their own circles of like, no, I genuinely don't need these things. I don't need care. I don't need the nurturing. And like there's this like really strong self lie of like I don't need these into like these personal relationships or these people to vent to or talk to. Like I can have surface level friendships and that's fine. And like it's kind of like neglecting the fact that men are also humans and that you have like grown through so much evolution that did still involve having a community. Like humans are meant to have a community. I'm going to quote Aristotle here, like we are social before we are human. That is a human thing. That is not gendered. So it can really lead to
Who's the quote from?
Aristotle.
Okay.
If
Well,
my memory is so correct.
so what you're saying, it's kind of like you receive a bill in the mail. If, like you can't just ignore it. Eventually, you are going to have to pay that bill, and it's
Exactly.
like you could put it on your desk, you can bury it under paper, but it's that charge is not going away.
Yeah, and I think many of us have learned that lesson the hard way.
Yes. All right. Well, moving on. One thing that I've been talking about a lot lately is the fit to protect, and I'm actually doing
Mm.
a uh, a seminar up in Cambridge later on this month on fit for duty. But the belief that physical conditioning isn't just about the body, that it's also about mental. And I've been looking into this a little bit just so I could keep up with you on talking about this topic. But there is some, it appears to be some science that backs it up, and we'd love to get your opinion on it. 2022 review in the British Journal of Sports Medicine found that exercise was just as effective as antidepressants for people with non-severe depression. But like we need to clarify that that's non-severe, that you probably can't bench press your way out of a severe depression, although I will look forward to your thoughts when I stop talking. But then we move forward to 2024. The British Medical Journal analyzed over 14,000 people and found that walking, strength training, and even yoga reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety to a level comparable with therapy. So, from your perspective, how does physical activity support mental health, And how realistic is it for somebody that's worked long hours, rotating shifts, maybe doing multiple jobs for different companies? I know you yourself had been called at 4 o'clock in the morning to go cover a shift that somebody didn't show up for.
Mm.
So if you had a workout plan that morning, that kind of went out the window. So how does physical activity support mental health?
So, no, it's such a huge factor. And I don't think any therapist in any capacity or social worker, etc., would be surprised by that study. Like, yeah, it doesn't work with severe depression for sure, because there's so many different things that can cause depression, right? And so sometimes like if it's like a chemical imbalance, like that's got a different thing going on. But like so much of like depressive states are caused by like lack of sunlight, lack of health, lack of community, and physical movement. I'm gonna just use an example to really highlight this. Every single spring, when the weather gets better, I experience a huge decline in clients that need to come in. Why? Because all of a sudden they all feel better because the sun's out and they're going out for walks and they're going to do like going to the gym more often and they're going for bike rides and have on the clock every year have the exact same thing happens, and then they all come back in the fall when the seasonal depression hits.
So people that are working nights and sleeping all day would not experience that because they wouldn't be in the sunlight.
Oh my God, don't even get me started on vitamin D. Like if you can exercise outside, like you're really making a huge difference. Um, but that's what you're asking about exercise. And we often like I wouldn't say we forget, but we do sort of neglect the fact that the body is like a whole system. And like we understand that conceptually. But if we like really get into it, like this is not just a concept, it's not some like pseudo-scientific thing. Like there is so much feedback from the different parts of the body that are constantly being sent and interpreted by really important parts. So if you're not like in physical, like in good physical shape, right? And I use that term loosely too, because that looks different for every single body. Like that is going to have a massive impact on the hormones that are being released. It's going to have an impact on the neurotransmitters. It's going to have an impact on your ability to absorb nutrients from the food that you eat. Like your mood impacts your ability to absorb the food that we eat. Whether or not you're looking forward to eating what you're about to eat is going to impact that. Like there's so much of your mental health is entirely based on your physical health. And it's really underestimated how I can't speak enough to how much like physical movement is going to impact mental health. Like it's yeah.
It is a challenge in our industry. And like
Hmm.
for the last couple of years, I've been, as you well know, like doing training. We're recording this on a Thursday, so we were at the office at 7 o'clock this morning training with a group. But it is like, and to not put a point on it, you got to drag them in kicking and screaming just to break a sweat out. And like, but the same people that you're doing it will happily work 100 hours in a week, like because they get paid, they want the money. And I understand that that is a driving factor for a lot of people, but like it is just such a shift in perspective to say, okay, listen, I want you to take 1 hour out of your week, which is what, 4% of your day. No, yeah, 4% of your day, just 1 hour a week to train, and you will get benefits. But it's something that, and hopefully through podcasts like this, we're starting to get the message through that, okay, you don't have to do it with us, but do something, instead of doing your rounds from the top floor to the bottom floor, go bottom floor to top floor. So you get a little bit more exercise. I know you are very familiar with Sifu Pat's 6 minute test, with the 100 push ups and 80 sit ups and 150 jumping jacks. 6 minutes gives you, like, you could do that in a lunchroom and still feel great about it. So it is something we really need to get the message out for our industry, because like I'm not saying they're lazy. I'm just saying that perhaps we haven't convince them of the value for it.
Yeah, and I want to speak to like three things there because like this is going to be kind of related to maybe how I end this whole thing. But there's like three things that can like impact that, right? And one of those is like, and I'm going to bring this back to especially like men in this field, is this like hyper resilience, right? When we learn that we have to be not a burden on anybody else and we have to be a caretaker, we have to be a provider, we become hyper resilient. And so there's this idea of like, as long as I can keep going at the capacity that I'm going, I don't need to take care of myself. Like if I can take care of everybody else, like as long as I am taking care of myself enough to be able to take care of others, or that I can experience myself as taking care of others, as like fulfilling that job, like that's all that matters. And then there's that other piece there of like the law of inertia, right? And this happens with socializing as well. When you see people like socializing less and less, it's this like really basic like physics and like just mental health concept of like when you are like consistently reducing something, your body will like pick up on that and it will consistently seek that out. So the more you exercise, the more you'll want to exercise. The less you exercise, the less you want to exercise. The more you socialize, the more you're going to want to socialize. The less you socialize, the more you're going to want to just be by yourself. You're not going to want to bother to go out. Everything's going to like, it's not just about what you tell yourself. It's about like, it will feel more exhausting the less you do of anything. And it like really applies to so many different things. It's like the body like conserves its energy and it change becomes harder. And then, but like I do appreciate that you guys do those like team meetings because like it's all the workouts because it's not just giving them like um exercise or movement. It is probably also filling a little bit of that like social need that they
Well,
might not get, especially if they're working alone.
I am a very social person. I love to talk, so it means a lot to have. All joking aside, it does bring me as a manager closer to the team, and I see them and I talk to them, and like one of them is like I always try and speak in French to that one person, and we're always joking around. And like I mean, I was talking about this the other day, but it's the three T's. We're training, we're testing each other, but we're also building trust and like trust in each other, and you know that when we see each other, just the shaking hands, you see these two people that train together shake hands. It's so much different than just a normal handshake. There's meaning behind it, and maybe it's corny, but I do think that that's uh, how you get teamwork and build trust, so that when you're in the field, you know who's with you. But that's just my 2 cents. In insecurity, I'm moving on to the next point. Insecurity, we are taught to spot threats, but it's not always in ourselves or the people beside us. What are some of the early warning signs that someone's burning out, depressed, quietly struggling, or even if they're still showing up every day? What are some signs that, like as a effective coworker, or I guess just a nice human being, we could look for?
I would say like one of the first signs, and I want to keep in mind that like there's a difference when somebody goes into fight or flight and then ends up going into like a sort of numbness afterwards, if that's the fight or flight is held for too long. But I would say one of the first signs, and probably the biggest sign, or at least the most noticeable, is irritability and anger. And this is hard. And this is why so many people do get pushed further into burnout, is because when somebody's coming at you constantly angry or irritable, your instinct is not to offer compassion or comfort. Your instinct is to get angry back, right? Your instinct is to be a little bit like confrontational with them. You want to match their energy.
Double down, triple down, quadruple down?
Exactly, yeah. And so like this is one of the hardest skills, is to be able to like recognize like anger is it's a basic emotion, i.e., it's recognized across all countries, regardless of language or culture. We can recognize it as a facial expression, but it is not like a primary emotion, so to speak, because you can't feel angry without first feeling afraid. And it's it's sometimes like it feels counterintuitive. It feels like, how could I possibly be afraid? I feel angry, I feel empowered. That's just it, like, right? Like we don't want to feel powerless. And that is why anger is a tool that exists for us, is because it allows us to feel like we can control the situation that feels like it's a threat, right? Like you're not angry unless something is like a threat. And it doesn't have to be like a physical threat. It can be an emotional threat. It can be a community threat. It can be like anything that could threaten any one of your existential needs or concerns, um, like identity, self-worth, things like that. So
That's interesting because, like, I have worked with people whose identity is so tied up in the job that they do that any perception that they are not doing the, like, 110% job, they come out
mm,
swinging. They like, I
yeah,
mean, it is like you have kicked a pet of theirs or something like that when like, just to even to offer some constructive criticism. So I don't know if that's along where you were going with it.
it's a perfect example though. So what you're like when you're seeing somebody who's angry all the time, you're seeing somebody who's afraid all the time. And sometimes that's because we're tired and we don't
So
feel like we have as many
irritability
resources. Yeah.
So irritability is one of the early warning signs if they seem to be reacting out of proportion to the issue that's at hand. Am I understanding that correctly?
Exactly, yeah. Because when you first hit those stages of burnout, it's like one of the easiest things for them to feel, like if you're looking at yourself, is like you're tired. Like, you don't want to do anything, you don't feel motivation. And so you're losing a lot of internal resources when you start to go towards burnout. You no longer have the things that normally regulate you. You know, you might not be like engaging in your hobbies as much, and those things help regulate. You might not be exercising as much. You might not be socializing as much. You probably don't want to do these things because you're tired, you're burnt out. But now you are reducing a whole bunch of resources that usually support you and help you. I think it's Nietzsche who said something like, when we are tired, we are plagued by demons we thought we conquered long ago. I'm paraphrasing slightly. But it really just points home like how important like tiredness and irritability are as signs to recognize when burnout is coming up fast.
Well, I don't know if it's Nietzsche, but I do believe that Vince Lombardi, the football coach for the Green Bay Packers, said fatigue makes cowards of us all. So
Mm.
I think that's just a a reason to go back to the fit to protect, and to have that, to build up that physical resiliency to log hours and depression. So, are there any other warning signs, irritability, lack of communication, that we should be on the watch for?
Um, and so this one I'm inclined to say like if you just look up like signs of burnout, like these are so easily found, but irritability, like tired, anhedonia, i.e., like the loss of interest in things that they used to enjoy or that you used to enjoy if you're looking inwards. But more often than not with other people, like it's gonna be you're just gonna notice less energy. Or if that energy is there, it's probably gonna be like a non-enjoyable energy to be around. And that's how you recognize it, especially because some people, especially those who feel like they unlatch their emotions, will try and hide it. And that brings it out even more as anger and irritability.
That makes it challenging because, like, as you said, we deal with people that are irritable, and it's easy to give
Yeah,
back what we receive. So
exactly.
if but so let's saying that we do pick up on this and we notice somebody struggling, a coworker, friend, even a family member, what's a good way to check in on them without making it awkward or intrusive? And if they do, like in the second part of that question, if they do open up, what should we say, or what should we avoid saying?
Yeah. And like I appreciate they pointed out like if they do open up, because there's only so much you can do depending on your role to that person, right? Which is why therapists exist, is because we have a specific relationship that is designed to be able to support people. And sometimes you might not have like the relationship with that person where they're even willing to open up to you, even if you say all the right things, because they have a preconception of you. So if you are lucky enough, it's always good to start casual, right? You're not wanting that person to feel like they're being dissected or feeling like they have to go on guard. So, and I'm saying this also because keeping in mind that like so many guards are guys, like Sometimes it's even easier just to stay casual, specifically with this population, because if they start to feel like you're trying to check in on their emotions, it can feel a little bit like, oh, you want me to show that I'm weak? No. So
We pride ourselves on being actually it says it right in our intro in on YouTube. Join us for non-politically correct talk. So feel free to reference the men's psyche or the male psyche as much as is appropriate. We promise we won't be offended.
no, that's okay. And like I'm saying with this because so much like we really underestimate how much like male and female psyche is far more similar than we give it credit for. Because a lot of the things that I'm describing, like that, it shows up a lot in men. Like I have so many female clients that demonstrate the same types of behaviors. Especially because masculine traits in our environment are kind of like lauded, right? Like they're held up as, you know, you should be the provider. Even when you're a woman, you need to be a provider if you want to get far in a job in like a company or you want to be a CEO. You have to have those kind of more masculine traits. So you'll also see like across like both genders, you're gonna have so many people who are gonna really try and like hide away from that vulnerability, especially if they see themselves as supposed to be like a protector for you, right? If you are approaching someone who sees themselves as having to care for you, you're far less likely to be able to get like that space to talk to them. It might be helpful to get someone that they don't have to protect to talk to them or to like, and I
So
would be careful with suggesting.
so suggest that they like. I guess it's a bit of a how do you do it like how do you say you need help without like it coming across as
Exactly,
being
exactly.
right? Because I've seen that on the internet all the time. Some like people as an insult they write get help, and I'm like, why is that an insult? Like it sounds like you'd actually be a caring statement, but they use it as an insult.
Yeah. Um, and like like especially in like us like a world right now where like to be strong is to be invulnerable rather than to be able to like feel confident and vulnerable at the same time. Uh, Getting help suggests that, you know, you're not already perfect. And so many people are perfectionists. Like if therapy has taught me anything, it's that like we're just like millions of people walking out right now, billions of people who are perfectionists right now walking the world. And like if I talk about like being careful with suggesting to people that they might need to get help, I want to really emphasize like we can try and do our best to support people. Like if you're talking to someone like really what matters most is that you maintain compassion. Right? You don't have to tell them to get help. You don't have to fix their overall greater issue. You don't have to pull them out of burnout. If all you do is stay compassionate and stay kind and stay patient, you've already made a difference to their day. But you don't need to be the one to suggest to them that they talk to somebody. You can teach something to someone, you can't learn it for them. And no amount of like intelligence is going to overpower somebody's free will. So sometimes it just isn't our place to tell the stranger to get help, you know? And sometimes that actually makes things worse and it makes them feel like getting help. The next time somebody that they would listen to suggests it, well, now it's being associated with something negative and then they're going to.
With the insult that they just got. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So you gotta
So
like
listen and with compassion and you said empathy or did you say sympathy or did you say both?
you could use either one. I always recommend using the word empathy, but you could say sympathy either way. Just as long as the person like really feels that you genuinely care is what matters.
Okay. So my final question for the person who's struggling, let's say somebody has listened to this podcast all the way to this point here, in which case, thank you very much. But if they're listening, they're exhausted, they're numb, they're overwhelmed. What would you want that person, like speak directly to them? What would you want them to hear today?
I would say that if you blame yourself for what you're going through, keep in mind that a flower can only grow if it's in like soil with enough water, with enough moisturizer, in the right environment, right? And if I ever gave you a flower and it didn't grow, like you would probably wonder what you did wrong that that flower didn't grow rather than blaming the flower. So if you're struggling right now, you don't need to carry that shame. it's not helpful for you. And that if you want to create change, start small. Don't expect yourself to set like 5 New Year's resolutions or goals for yourself or a monthly exercise routine that's gonna overwhelm you because now you're expecting yourself to be capable of this huge life change when right now you're already struggling with possibly minute changes. And just figure one thing that you want to change, something so small, break it into a smallest piece, keep it as a loose goal, like maybe you walk 2 times a week, 2 times a week, and that's it. And it could just be maybe you just step outside your door more often during the day. Maybe you step outside the door 2 times in the day and you just stand on your front porch. Whatever, however small it needs to be, that's realistic for you. And if it's not working and you've tried, then it needs to be smaller. And that's okay. We also have to start somewhere.
Excellent. Well, Jenna, thank you for being here and for being honest with us and guiding us on this important topic. To everybody that's listening, Movember is not just about the mustache. It's about conversations like this. We are first aid. If we saw somebody with a bleeding wound, we would not ignore them. So if we see somebody that's maybe bleeding on the inside, we don't want to ignore them. You know, if it's you and you feel like that, talk to somebody, move your body, do what Jenna just suggests. Start with smaller goals, check on your people, and just remember that you don't have to go it through. You don't have to go through it alone. So thank you very much, everybody. If this helped you, please share it. Subscribe to Security Responder on YouTube. Sign up for our updates, and let's keep the conversation going. Remember, you are not alone. Thank you, Jenna. Really appreciate your time and your expertise on this matter.
Absolutely.